Len, I know you love Doug Wilson, but not everybody does. There's a lot of people. There are actually websites and Twitter accounts devoted to exposing Doug Wilson in Christchurch. And here recently, tweeting from the account Examining Doug Wilson and Moscow, Idaho, they take issue with a recent video put out by Christchurch, which is labeled the following. The extraordinary growth our community has experienced in the last 2 to 3 years is truly a great blessing. But as with any blessing, if it is met with ingratitude or is received without evangelical faith, it swiftly turns into a curse. It's a strange, actually kind of strange 2-minute video from somebody from Christchurch talking about getting along and, remembering the gospel in the midst of somewhat competition. I played it for you, but
yeah.
The tweet that I wanted to share is from Examining Doug Wilson in Moscow. We are shocked, so shocked. This is that Wilson hater. We are shocked, so shocked that all the aggressive men exhorted constantly by Doug Wilson to move to Moscow and dominate anyone and everyone needs to be scolded to settle down. That's the way they're interpreting the video. Should we play the video to give context?
Nah. I mean, basically the video he's saying that because of all the people moving, there are not enough houses, so Christians may end up bidding on the same house against each other. The person who loses the bid may feel embittered, or their child got into a school that someone else's child didn't get into, and so within the church, because of all the people that they're attracting, there's some jealousy and bitterness that could come and squash the blessing that God has put on the church, which they see the growth as a blessing, which, that's the error of the church growth movement.
A lot of people have been moving there.
Yeah.
A lot of ministry has sprung up in the last 2 or 3 years. The whole Cross Politic podcast and ministry and now conferences, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of all that's been going on. People with all kinds of skills in video production have moved there for sure, and the content being put out by Doug Wilson and the people who have moved to Moscow and the people that were there before, it's just massive. A massive amount of ministry materials are being published on the internet. Lots going on there.
Yeah.
The
assumption is that that's a good thing, right?
Well, or a bad thing.
God must be blessing it.
It might be a bad thing.
He wouldn't grow it if he didn't want it. He wouldn't grow it, right?
Why do you think people are attracted to Doug Wilson? Why would somebody take their whole family and move to Christchurch? Well, if it wasn't for Doug Wilson, they wouldn't be doing it. Well, we can agree on that.
Well, look, I mean, Doug Wilson, how does JD say it? Like in a drought of truth with look, man, I live in a town of 100,000 people. I can't find a good church, man. Like the church I'm attending is okay. At least, like the best thing I can say is like, it's not heretical, but it's not very deep either. So there are not good churches, man. And if you are a Christian who is just hungering and thirsting for just some godly preaching, and you don't want to go to Grace Community Church, you don't want to sit under John MacArthur because you don't want to sit in a room with 15,000 people, or probably doesn't seat that many, right? But it's probably several services of 3,000 to 5,000 people in a room. And how do you connect? And just a lot of pressure, but, Doug Wilson.
How big do you think Doug Wilson's church is? We didn't do any homework on that.
I have no idea. I'm guessing where he is in Moscow, Idaho. Excuse me. If he has 400 to 600, that would be a pretty big church, I
Well,
would think.
a church of 200 is a big church today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
So I can't imagine it being much bigger than that because I don't think there's that many theonomists in America anymore. But I don't know. I could be wrong about that.
there's a lot of theonomists in his church.
Well, look, man, there was a whole controversy about federal vision, and him and James White kind of did that whole video together about theonomy and everything, and J.D. Hall warned in 2018. He wrote an article about Douglas Wilson resurrecting the corpse of theonomy, and I think he's doing it, man. I think that's a debate that's going to have to be contested again.
Are they post-millennial there?
Oh, for sure.
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
So they think everything's getting better.
Well, look around, dude. You have air conditioning and bacon.
So the one thing about Doug Wilson, why do you love him so much?
Oh, because for one thing, look, he is a rhetorician. When he speaks, like Blog and Mablog, when he was writing there, now he's doing, I think he's basically reading his articles on YouTube. And plus he's starting to make videos refuting other dumb videos or ill thought.
Oh yeah.
Videos,
like reaction videos.
Yes. It's great. He is such a
You've called him a wordsmith.
He doesn't, there isn't a wasted word that comes out of his mouth. Every word he says has weight. And it's attractive. It's attractive to me. And I hate theonomy to my core.
Mm-hmm.
I hate theonomy. And yet I can't stop watching Doug Wilson. So look, dude, I get why I would, if I were a theonomist, I would probably pack up my wagons and try to hitch my star to hitch my wagon to his star. But
and when you say theonomist, what form of theonomy do they adhere to? What does that mean? Because a lot of people watching this are going to be like,
"Oh, dude, you said you wanted this to be a short video. You said you wanted this to be
in 1 minute. In 1 minute, what is theonomy?
Theonomy is the belief that God's law from the Old Testament applies for all time to all people. That's basically it. Think Roman Catholicism. It's closer to theocracy. Theonomy is far closer to Roman Catholicism than they are to Protestantism, in practice and in creed.
I highly expect a video response for that.
Good.
What you just said.
Bring it. And in the meantime, maybe in the description, we need to leave the Joel McDermott, J.D. Hall debate so people can watch why theonomy is so mind-blowingly stupid.
Yeah.
Studying theonomy is what drove me to New Covenant theonomy. Or New Covenant
We're creating new doctrines. New theological.
Yeah, right. Of which I am now the founder.
Which I am now.
Now I got to write a book about it. New Covenant theonomy. New Covenant theonomy is what drove me to New Covenant theology, because I was Reformed, and how strongly were we considering theonomy 8 years ago?
Well, you could be taken in by it with the
look. It's the skin of truth stuffed with a lie, right? It's got Calvinism, which we agree with Calvinism, Reformed doctrine, whether it's the Presbyterian or Reformed Baptist, the Westminster Confession or the London Baptist Confession. It's like, oh, okay. I'm not down with the baby baptism, but Reformed ish, cool. I'm Reformed, or at least I was at the time. And then the logical leaps that they make that on their face sound really good, right? But when you examine it through the lens of Scripture more closely, and especially through the book of Galatians, through through the teachings of Jesus, they just got over their skis theologically, and they went too far.
The first person that I said that I ever heard said that we ought to get rid of the police, and even go so far as saying that the police are an occupying army, was a theonomist.
I agree with that, by the way.
Stop. You're not helping. You're not helping this
well,
discussion.
But that's the appeal, dude, is that they
you're not helping. You are so far off logically.
Look, before anybody considers, anyone in this audience who might be thinking, well, I need to look into this theonomy thing, be very careful. Watch the debate with Joel McDermott,
who's no longer a theonomist.
Who's no longer, yeah, right.
He argued the position he no longer holds. Now, listen, we're talking bad about a portion of Doug Wilson's theology, but at the same time, you love the guy.
I do. I love him. I love him dearly. I would shake his hand. I would hug him. I would worship with him.
So what advice do you give to the young, the people who are watching this who are like, well, then should I listen to him? Should I, like, what does, yes. How much does the theonomy come out?
Look,
the theonomy and the post-millennialism
in blog and Mablog, very, very little. I mean, unless you really understand the nuances of the position, it will go almost completely undetected, especially in his response videos. The post-millennial stuff, you might, if you're familiar with the positions, you'll hear it in his teaching, but it's not he's not trying to force anyone else into it in such a way like other ministries that,
well,
Apologia, for example. Well, Apologia is
the other ministries that are hyper, like they're really pushing it. The ones that would be like, oh, well, you have a watered down gospel if you don't hold to this.
Exactly. And one thing I'll say is that, like, there are those who would hold to that. But I think I heard J.D. Hall say, thinking of theology as a train, and what the motor, the theonomist tends to put, the post-millennial theonomist especially tends to put their eschatology as the engine of their train. That's what's driving all of their theology. I get none of that from Doug Wilson. Doug Wilson has, in my opinion and in my experience, he has the gospel driving the train of his theology. And so that's why I eat the meat and spit out the bones with him. I laugh every time I listen to him. And I think he's fantastic. Big fan.
And what's the name of that song we used to play?
Oh, hold your tea. What does it say? Hold your peace, you rebellious pot. The Lord is God, and you are not. Kind of a Johnny Cash kind of a.
We used to, yeah. So
I think it's called "Hold Your Peace," isn't it? Or
probably. And we played it here, and then we got copyright strike. Thanks, Doug Wilson. Thank you. So
yeah, fair use.
Yeah. So that was a really cool song, but we can't play it for you. Anyway,
we'll link it.
You know what? My experience with Doug Wilson is I always appreciated what I heard from him, but I knew there were some people that were like really concerned, like they're really bent on letting people know that Doug Wilson's bad. Well, what do you mean he's bad? And now I see those same people are attacking John MacArthur. And I'm like, wait a minute. I probably should have never listened to anything that you said about Doug Wilson if you're now going to go ahead and attack Doug Wilson. So, hey, that's our take. That's our quick take on Doug Wilson and what's going on in Idaho. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't already. I'm going to shut this down, Len.
1 second.
1 second.
Is it gone?
No,
okay.
It's not
Before
gone.
Look, Doug Wilson debated on tour. He did like a debate tour with an atheist called Christopher Hitchens, who has since passed. And Doug Wilson, in that, I mean, that is one of the best Christian documentary style movies I've ever seen. And Christopher Hitchens talking about Doug Wilson, said, I've debated a bunch of Christians, and he said that Douglas Wilson is the first person who I think actually believes what he's saying because of his testimony of how he lived out his life. They spent a lot of time together. It's a great documentary. So check that out. That's probably 10 years old or more by
the
now.
Documentary made by somebody who says Jesus is wine. Anyway, for those of you who have been watching Len and I for what? How long have we been doing this? Since 2014?
Long time.
8 years. You'll get all the inside jokes. But for the rest of you, I apologize. You need to go back and listen to years of podcasts. But hey, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Every Thursday night, we try to go live and talk about theology and other things. You all right, Len? You feeling okay?
Yeah, I feel great. I was just looking at something on my phone. I'm distracted. Squirrel.
Till next video, take care. And we'll see you later. See ya.